This week, we are continuing to train ourselves to get out of the boat, to take a step out on the water, to put our trust in Jesus, and to walk towards him with eyes fixed upon him. You know, we celebrate another saint today in the church, someone who can give us an incredible insight on how to continue walking towards Jesus, even when we sink below the water. You know, that's one of my favorite parts of that gospel narrative that we don't often talk about. You know, Peter was the one who stepped out of the boat and onto the water, but immediately he began to sink. But when he sank, he cried out to the Lord. He never stopped. He always put his trust back in the Lord. His faith would continue to overcome his fear. When he cried out to the Lord was right there. But Peter had to stretch out his hand. He had to take the hand of the Lord when he was sinking. And in the same way, the woman that we celebrate today, her name is Saint Jane Frances de Chantal. I love the name. I just love to say the name, Saint Jane Frances de Chantal. This is a woman who continued, despite her suffering of her life, despite her failures, she continued to just reach out her hand to the Lord. She never stopped trusting, no matter the circumstances. You know, if there's a message that we need right now, if we're going to engage this culture, this world, the things that we're not in control of, right? We're going to have to continue to fail. We're going to continue to suffer. But we're going to continue to have to trust, to continue reaching out our hand to the Lord. Jane was a woman who married at an early age. She was from Dijon, France, and she married a baron. His name was Christophe de Chantal, which is where she gets her name. Well, they struggled from the very beginning. They miscarried 3 children. But within the next 7 years, they would bear 4 children. She had 4 children, and at the age of 29, her husband was tragically shot in a hunting accident by one of his friends. She went into a deep depression. She had 4 young children, not knowing what to do without Christophe. And she basically had trouble forgiving her husband's killer, her husband's friend. She couldn't forgive him. But you know, she knew that she had to get out of the boat. She knew that she had to continue to live her life. She couldn't just sit there. But after months of sitting in depression, she took her children to live with her father-in-law. Her father-in-law was not someone she wanted to be around, not someone she wanted to live with. She knew him to be emotionally abusive. But he actually said to her that he would disinherit her children if they didn't move back in with him. So, looking out for what was best for her children, she decided to make that move, even though it wasn't what was best for her. But you know, that led her to getting out of the boat once again. It led her to her next step. She did what was necessary to get to the next step. And her next step was that through that experience of living with her father-in-law, she met another priest. Just as Claire yesterday met a Francis who led her to holiness, who led her to get out of the boat in her own way. So this Jane would meet a Francis, not Francis of Assisi, but a man who we know today as Saint Francis de Sales. He became her spiritual director. He helped her to overcome this depression and in fact, helped her to forgive her husband's killer. So much so that she became the godmother to that friend's son. Again, she just continued to strive, continued to cry out to the Lord, continued to reach out her hand for a lifeline. Well, it was through Francis de Sales that together they would decide that God was calling them to open a religious congregation for women who were much like her. Women who were down and out, who seemingly didn't have any other place to turn. Women who knew that they were being called by God to get out of the boat, to do something new with their life. And so they established these religious congregations for women who, because of their health, because of their age, maybe because of other unfortunate circumstances in their life, were not accepted by other religious congregations. And so they established this, but it would be difficult. Immediately after establishing their first house, Frances de Sales died. Her confidant, her spiritual director, the one who was urging her on to this holiness of life, to getting out of the boat, passed away. Immediately after that, her son was killed. A plague started to ravage France. Sound familiar what going on here? There was some virus, there was a plague that ravaged France. And immediately, because of the result of that, was that her son-in-law died. Her daughter-in-law passed away. This woman would never get out. Whenever the waves started to rise in her life, she had learned by now to put her trust in the Lord, to continue to reaching out to him. This woman, with so much death in her life, with so much suffering, continued to reach out. And the result of that was she continued to affect the lives of women around her. By the time of her death, she established 86 different congregations for those women. Can you imagine how many lifelines she sent out to them? Can you imagine that she continued to put her trust in the Lord and the way that she taught others to do that, to continue getting out of the boat? I'm going to finish by reading to you one of the quotes by St. Jane Frances, who teaches us about her perseverance, about where to put our trust and how to continue getting out of the boat. She says this: "One must hold fast and never let go to the hand of God, because the one who gives up loses all. If you are driven out of one door, go back in the other. Whenever we feel down and out, let's continue to trust, to reach out our hand to the Lord. If he will pull us out of the waters, if we just take a step, it's time to get out of the boat.